Hey everybody, this is Perch. How many books, how many X books are too many X books? And what I mean by that is, well, I mean, actually, I pretty much, you can probably figure out what I mean by that because the question is pretty straightforward. How many X titles can Marvel crank out before the entire thing collapses in a giant fiery ball of doom? Like, how long until the Phoenix shows up and just consumes all the X books that are being published? Okay, so kind of facetious question, but the real question is here: why do publishers do this? So in 2019, Marvel gave the reins of X-Men to Jonathan Hickman. Now, Marvel was planning to get the reins of X-Men to Jonathan Hickman in 2018, but a variety of things, and there's been a few different stories, but a variety of things conspired to basically delay Hickman's run by about 9 months. And herein, I mention this every time because it just irks me to death every time I think about it. Marvel launched the X-Men with a big kind of fanfare. It had Kelly Thompson and Matt Rosenberg. It had Ed Brisson, somebody else, I thought. They were on this book, this kind of re-emergence of basically a new X-Men universe. And they did a brief little, I think Ed Brisson helmed miniseries where young Cable came and killed old Cable and sent the X-Men back to their proper timeline, and it was going to put a foot in the ground. It's going to be a new era of X-Men, and it was going to be weekly for a while, and it was going to be good. We care about X-Men, says Marvel, and they do this in October, and they push it out. At the time, Marvel knew 100% that Jonathan Hickman was coming out of the book, and this was a temporary measure. It was a stopgap, and it was not going to be anything that sticks. And but regardless of all, they told the shops and everything else, no, this is what you want to buy into. This is not a holding pattern. I mean, what could they say? I guess. I mean, if they had said, hey, we're doing some X-Men crap for about 9 months, and then we're going to relaunch everything, I mean, nobody would have bought that run. So instead, they gave us a very brief little X-Men run. They reintroduced Nate Gray. They did Age of X-Men. It absolutely sucked. And then they turned the X-Men briefly into a snuff film. And then it ended, and we got the Hickman X-Men. And I'm still burned by Marvel doing that. I don't know. Has everybody else given? What do you think? Have you all given up on that? Have you let it go? You made peace with the fact that happened? It still irks me. But anyway, I was selling comics at the time, so I mean, I guess I have more of a reason why it irked me. At any rate, Marvel then launches Hickman's X-Men. We get 6 Dawn of X titles, and then that quickly becomes a lot more, and still going. We just had the arrival of Sword, which was a brand new comic book, and people think I'm an X-Men hater because I've been negative about Ten of Swords and some of the other things, but I love the X-Men. I love the X-Men. I will throw down with anyone on X-Men trivia all day long. I have deep respect for multiple eras. I'm not just the person who loves, one particular Jim Lee infused era of X-Men. There's many eras. There's Paul Allen era. There's a John Byrne era. There's a Dave Cockrum era. There's John Romita Jr. doing some of his best work, I think, in his career on X-Men. I think there's a lot of stuff. Lots of X-Men. There's Nurse Annie X-Men. How can we forget Nurse Annie? At any rate, there's lots and lots and lots of great X-Men moments that have happened throughout its career, and so I look at things like Sword, which came out last week, and it's like it's a comic that is a tour of a space station. Like that's it. Like I what happened there? They gave a tour of this space station, and it's like, is this a new #1 issue? Is this really how we're going to launch another X-Men title? It feels like the launching of a new X-Men book has turned extremely lazy at this point, where it's like, hey, we got a bunch of mutants, let's throw out another book. Screw it, another book. Everybody loves team books, out it goes. And what are we doing in this book? Who cares? We'll take them on a tour of a factory. That'll be this X book. It'll be a factory tour. Like, I keep expecting an X book to launch, and it's just dinner. Like, the entire book is like it's a new team of X-Men, and they've come together. Somebody is hosting a dinner party. Like, it's like Emma Frost. It's Emma Frost's dinner party, and she's invited a variety of mutants to this dinner party, and nobody's really sure why. this is the dinner party, the guest list, why they've got people there. It's a completely weird, random assortment of people, and that's the comic. It's like the first issue is just they sit down and they have dinner, and nobody knows why they're there, and it's like there's a little mystery. The hook is that it's like, why did Emma pick this particular set, and why did she put Nightcrawler next to Random? Why did that happen? What was she thinking to have them seated next to each other? What nefarious scheme does Emma Frost have with this dinner party? And then that's the comic. That's issue number one. And this thing goes for like 10 issues where they're just sitting at dinner, the entire run of this comic. At any rate, sorry, I've gone off track. My original question is just, how many X titles are enough? Like, at what point do you go, all right, we're good. Like, we can't crank out any more X-Men books. We've gotten, we're at 40 X-Men books, and there's just, we can't do any more. We can't think of another possible way to spin this thing. Like, and like, how many is too many? It feels like we're there. It feels like with, we've got X Corp on the way, and we've got Children of the Atom still coming, and it feels like there's a Moira book out there somewhere, and a Storm solo title is rumored. Like at some point, does somebody at Marvel go, hey, we may overdo it, and then people will start to reject these books? Or are we just going to have like 20 books all selling at 20,000 copies? Is that where this is going? Because it feels like that's where this is headed. If you were running this publisher, how would you know to say, this is enough? We've got 10 books. We don't need 20. Let's just keep it at 10. Because whoever like is managing the line, it feels like nobody is sitting there going, hey, do you think we have too many books? I mean, I want to know badly. Like, does Jordan White actually ever say, I think we may have too many books? And then, to be fair, not just beat up on the X-Men, is there somebody in the Bat office that's like, you know what? Maybe as we put out our 15th Batman title a month, we might want to invest money in one of the different parts of the universe, because if we oversaturate Batman, then it will erode the core Batman book and then everything else. And then we're going to wind up with, it's such a cliche, killing the golden goose. What is the metric do you think Marvel is using to go, yeah, okay, we can squeeze another X book in here, sure? Is there one? Or is it just like Jordan White's a super friendly guy, and he's like, he plays his ukulele, and somebody goes, hey, Jordan, I've got an idea for an X book, and he's like, man, I don't want to be interrupted while I'm playing the ukulele, so let's just green light that book and off we go. And maybe the writer's like, I don't even know if I have a full idea here. I've got kind of a half idea for an X book, but I'd still like one. And Jordan White's like, hey, no problem. Christos Gage can come in here and help you write it. It'll be cool. And then let's just get that book out there. Is that how it's functioning at Marvel these days? And then let's be fair, and DC. Like, how many of these books do we possibly need before the entire thing just topples over? And then, because the thing is, we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen with the X books. The X books had too many X books. You put Deadpool and Wolverine into too many things, Wolverine in particular, in the 90s. And it just, the sales kind of collapsed out from under the weight of Wolverine trying to carry all these things. And I mean, I get it. Like, the 90s were like, whoa, almost 30 years ago now. I mean, Jesus, who even knows that? God, history. Who cares? But, I mean, it feels very much like plummeting right off a cliff. And, we have evidence. We've been off this cliff before. We know it goes to a deep, dark pit, and we all die when we go off this cliff. But all the same, there's cute bunnies at the bottom. So let's just go off the cliff. Let's do it. I don't know. It feels strange to me. But what about you? Is there such a thing as too much is enough? Or in fairness, Are you like, you know what, that book about Emma Frost's dinner party, that sounds pretty good. I think they should do that. Let's get BDIL on that and get that book out there because that sounds pretty damn good. Imagine the conversation. Poof, be awesome. Get rid of all that action. Just to what do you think? Is there such a thing as too much is enough? And if you do think too much is enough, do you think we've hit it with X-Men, with Batman, with some of these books? And if you do, why do you think they're doing this? Like, what is the logic that they're using? Or conversely, are you like, hey, just put this stuff out, and if it topples, it topples. The market will bear what the market will bear. Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Most importantly, though, thanks for listening.